have a good answer still, but my family is originally from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and my father was military, my stepfather was military, so we ended up in Kansas, which I believe was part of God's path for me. All my friends in Pittsburgh didn't fare well. And so I'm just thankful that he led me to Kansas, even though it was a change at first. Very different cultures, going from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to Kansas. But I grew up in Kansas, and I ended up staying there for everything: undergraduate, med school, and my residency training. Initially going into medicine, something I wanted to do ever since I was a baby. My mom said ever since I could talk, I said I wanted to be a doctor. And something just pushed me to keep going and achieve that goal. But I thought I wanted to be a cardiologist coming up. My grandmother had really bad heart disease, and everyone who knows me knows I was closer to my grandmother than anybody, than my mom, my dad. So I vowed that I would cure heart disease. But when I went through residency, I had a change of heart. I just liked being able to know my patients well, see them from when they're delivering babies up into old age. And I liked the thought of that. And then I liked also the thought of being able to help my patients surgically with their bleeding, their pain. We're all women in this room, so we know that can hit us pretty hard. I get a lot of patients who have a lot of fibroid issues, pelvic pain, ovarian cysts, and I just like the thought of being able to fix that problem. So the other side of it is delivering babies, and I do that as well, and helping moms become more healthy through their pregnancy. And I guess that's one of the main reasons I'm here, is to talk about health disparities, and really what my job is to make us healthier people, and educate all of my patients as to why it's important to try to be healthier so that they can make babies that are healthier and live long, healthy lives. Okay, so the goal today is to talk about health disparities and what we can do to change the trend. Really, the answer to that question is a difficult one. The legislation, government is trying to figure out how can we change the trend of health disparities in the African American community. And I was trying to do some research before coming today, and really, they don't have a great answer, to be honest. They're working at it. It has gotten a little better, but there's not been a drastic change. And so my goal today is just to educate the people in this room. My goal every day that I go to work is to educate my patients so that they understand the importance of becoming healthy. So, the definition of health disparities: the differences in health care received by different groups of people that are not only unnecessary and avoidable, but also unfair and unjust. Okay? Several key words, and I want this to be interactive. I don't want to just stand up here and talk. That gets boring. So, several things in this statement or this definition stand out to me. Is that with you all as well? What words in that statement stand out?
Unnecessary and avoidable.
There you go. Those are the words that really kind of struck a chord with me. That it's unnecessary, meaning it can be changed. Unnecessary. It's avoidable, meaning we can prevent it from happening. Unfair. We're not being treated fairly, which it's been the trend for as long as I've been alive. Probably all of us have been alive. And unjust, again, to me that's the same as unfair. There's no justice in how we're treated. So some numbers, I don't want to do a whole bunch of numbers, but in 2012, there were 45 million African Americans in the US, which made up about 14% of the population. So, next slide. As you can see here, this is explaining the health disparity. We only make up 14% of the population, but we account for 24.5% of the deaths, which is very high. Because if you can see, white Americans make up 25.1%, but there are significantly higher amount of Caucasian Americans in the United States. So yes, that number looks higher, but if you look at the ratio, it's a lot less. So some factors that contribute to health disparities. So this is what the CDC says are factors that contribute. We have inadequate access to care, poor quality of care, community features such as poverty, violence, and personal behaviors. Does anyone have any ideas on any of these things, any comments about the list that I have here? Yes, ma'am.
I want to say about how you were saying inadequate access to care, how with Obamacare, how even the legislature, even though they passed all of this, nothing has happened. You know, there's still a problem accessing it.
Yes, there's a divide, and you have your business people, your insurance companies, you know, the people who are getting richer and richer off of selling health insurance that are fighting this, and really it gets into a lot of politics. But you know, I think for many Americans, the Affordable Care Act will be a good thing. But I've already found in my community of physicians that a lot of physicians are rejecting it. They're not even going to take it. So there goes another disparity. It's the same with, if you look at like Medicaid, Medicare, a lot of physicians don't take those insurances. And the problem with the Affordable Care Act is the buzz around the medical community is that reimbursements are going to be a lot less than, you know, Medicaid and Medicare. So I see both sides. I definitely do, but it gets into a lot of politics, and you know, it's kind of out of the realm of the health. Well, it's not out of the realm of the health disparities. It's definitely a good thing to get people insurance and so that they can have access to care. But you'll be shocked by my next slide too, that talks more about health care and health insurance. So there was another question in the back.
It was a statement. I had last week, two people, both black. One was a teenager, and one was my sister. You know, she was 30. But both of them had issues, like severe health issues, but they refused to go to the hospital.
The patients themselves actually refused?
Yeah, I mean, one of them was a student, and he had this pain on one of his sides. And after weeks that he keep going to the nurse, they go to the hospital.
Yes.
Just won't go. And the other one, my sister was growing up for like a day or so.
And that's, so, exactly, so that's part of it as well. That's part of the mentality that a lot of us have. Even my own patients that I see are scared. My family members are scared to go to the doctor, scared of what the doctor may tell them, scared of surgery to fix a problem that could be fixed. They'd rather die than have the surgery to fix them. And so that's part of it too, is not knowing that the doctor is there to help you. And there, you know, I'm not gonna sit here and stand up for all doctors. There are some bad doctors out there. But for the most part, people are gonna try to help fix the problem. And I think that's something that we are a little bit nervous about going to the doctor, thinking that the doctor's not gonna help them, or, you know, it's a waste of my money. I get that a lot. I don't wanna spend the money. Oh, I'll get better. It'll just go away on its own. And I'm nervous of what the doctor may tell me. I may have cancer, or it may be something bad, and I just don't want to know. And so I get that a lot. And that's part of the health disparity and the lack of education about certain illnesses and certain things that we can fix and treat. So that is a big part of the problem as well. But when I said you'd be shocked about my next slide, I don't know if you'd be shocked, but it says even when income, health insurance, and access to care are accounted for, meaning you scratch that out of the equation, there's still health disparity, or there's still disparities among races. I get it a lot, and I'll just tell you guys personal stories. I get it a lot where patients are very thankful to have found a black doctor. Some are scared to have a black doctor. They're used to their doctors being white or any other race, Indian or whatever you may have. But a lot of my patients are very happy to have found a black doctor, someone who can relate to them, someone who can understand what they're going through, and someone they feel comfortable talking to their problems about. And so with there not being very many of us, I could understand why you still have some disparities that remain. Go to the next slide. So the 10 leading causes of death for African Americans. It's no real surprise. Most people know what the top answers are. We have heart disease, we have cancer, we have stroke, diabetes, unintentional deaths such as accidents. We have kidney disease, lung disease, homicide, infection, and Alzheimer's, which is a dementia. So some risk factors, so we'll get into kind of the health talk, and you're gonna see a trend amongst all of the top health issues. You're gonna see high blood pressure several times. You're gonna see high cholesterol several times. You're gonna see smoking, diabetes, obesity, poor diet, inactivity, which is what the ladies just talked about, alcoholism. Those things are all huge in our community. We know that African Americans have the highest rates of high blood pressure, diabetes, kidney disease, which can be an effect of having diabetes and high blood pressure. Not necessarily the smoking part, but smoking does contribute. It's pretty even among the races of smoking rates. So you can see that there is a trend. We have to fix this trend. We have to get healthier, and then the obesity part too, which can lead to all these other things. So it's one big chain that's all connected. You have obesity, obese people have high blood pressure, they have diabetes, they have heart disease, they have kidney disease. So if we can fix the underlying problem, which is why it was important for those ladies to be here and talk about getting active and weight control and decreasing the amount of obesity, I think we can fix a lot of the other problems as well. So then go on to cancer. Breast cancer, the second leading cause of cancer death among women in the US. But black women have the highest rates of all racial ethnic groups. So we're dying more from breast cancer. That's because of the health disparities, what we just talked about, because of access to care, quality of care, timing of our going to get checked out is a lot more delayed, and so our cancers are being found more aggressive. They are already stage 3, stage 4 when they're found. Women are nervous about getting mammograms. I have to literally, a lot of my patients, I have to really talk them into going to get a mammogram. I have to really convince them to go get a colonoscopy. And I'll let you all know, it's very, very important, and some of the women in this room know that. A mammogram takes about 20 seconds each side. Those of you who've had it, 20 seconds each side, right? 30 seconds each side for them to compress the breast. Causes a little pain, but it's tolerable for 20 seconds. And so I really have to coax a lot of women into going to do that. But it can mean so much for your life if you go just have that mammogram. So a lot of masses in the breast are not palpable, meaning you can't feel them. It's picked up by the mammogram. And so I just encourage you all, while I'm talking, I encourage you all to make sure you get your mammograms if you're over 40 and over, excuse me. There was a question about.
No, it wasn't. You said it said pain. It's a little bit uncomfortable, the mammogram.
But it's doable for 20 to 30 seconds. It's less than a minute, and once a year.
The pain of that versus the pain of cancer is minimal.
Exactly. And that's what I said, it can change your life tremendously. That's the same thing with colon cancer. You know, I didn't put colon cancer up there, but colon cancer is affecting the African American community as well. And I have to really convince my 50-year-old patients to go get a colonoscopy. And the thing they don't realize is that they're asleep when they get a colonoscopy. And so they think that it's gonna hurt, or I don't want someone sticking something up there, and it's gonna be, I'm like, no, you will be asleep and you won't remember anything. They don't have to put tubes or anything down to keep you breathing, but they make you really sleepy so that you don't feel anything, and so that you don't remember the procedure. My mom was someone who was a little bit nervous about getting her colonoscopy, but afterwards she was like, oh, it was fine. I think the worst part is the prep that you do beforehand, where they clean you out. So, you know, I really, again, that's another thing that I really try to educate my patients. I have too many young women too, so women think that, patients think that, you know, oh, that's people, old people get that stuff. I'm not gonna get that. I have 30-year-old women with breast cancer. I have 30-year-old women with colon cancer. And so just knowing there are genetic factors that can play into you having breast cancer. Now there's the big thing about the BRCA analysis. Have you guys heard about that, the BRCA? Basically, it's a genetic mutation that can make you more predisposed to getting breast cancer, ovarian cancer. And so a lot of women now are being educated about that, getting tested so that they can do more preventative care for that. There's also one with colon cancer as well, a genetic test that we can do to see if you have a risk for that. But really, it's based on your family history. So if you have 3 relatives with breast and ovarian cancer, then you should get tested to see if there's a genetic predisposition for that. So back to breast cancer. Even though deaths caused by breast cancer have decreased significantly among white Americans, white women, African American women continue to have higher rates of mortality from breast and from cervical cancer, which again are 2 things that are preventable. Cervical cancer is preventable. It does not have, we could have 0 cervical cancer if women would just get their pap smears like they're supposed to. Yes, it's a chore to come into my office and get in those stirrups and have someone down there looking at your cervix, looking at your vagina. But remember, it's our job. I have to convince a lot of people of that too. It's my job. I do it all day, every day. And it's just like what you do. You go into work, you punch that clock every day. It's second nature. It's the same for us. And yes, it's a little uncomfortable, but how long does it last? A minute or less, depending on what's going on. So that pap smear is your screening tool to prevent cervical cancer. Even if there's an abnormality, most of the time we can fix it before it gets to cancer. So that's something that you have to understand. Cervical cancer can be treated before it gets to cancer. But you can't just go on saying, I don't want to know, I don't want to know, I don't want to know. That's the problem with our community, is we just don't want to know. If something's there, we don't want to know. We just ignore it until it's too late. So stroke, and this is just, I'm just going through, again, the list that was there. Stroke, it's kind of like heart disease. It's kind of like kidney disease, everything else. It's definitely something that also can be prevented or delayed by making sure we take care of our bodies. Smoking, high blood pressure are the 2 most common causes of stroke. So the